Today's video is the first video of a new video series called KarateDiscourse. So any video which has more speaking than action or techniques, for example discussion, ideas, reviews or responses relating to training concepts, etiquette or history, will be uploaded to the KarateDiscourse video series. Today's KarateDiscourse will be speaking on karate etiquette with some interesting facts, some historical facts.
Firstly, I would like to apologize for the sound quality of this video, so I've provided subtitles to make it understandable. In the previous video, I introduced my website, so do check that one out.
Okay, now we're at today's video. This is the Zarei, Seiza, and the Zarei. By the way, if you want to share these images, you're more than welcome to, so long as you credit me. One way is just by leaving this banner here, which has all my URLs and KarateZ. So let's look at the first thing, grade. So anyway, as an introduction, because the birthplace of karate, which is Okinawa, is now part of modern-day Japan, karate inherits the Japanese language, terminologies, customs and traditions. The embodiment of the physical karate training does not go without the embodiment of the karate etiquette. So let's start with the grade. So we're starting with the yoi or kamaete position. So yoi means ready, kamaete basically means posture. Now some dojos will say yoi, some dojos will say kamaete. So I gotten used to yoi because that's what my instructor has been using. So in turn, when I started teaching, I've always used yoi. However, there are some of the dojos which use kamaete more. So sometimes when I send my students for grading, I have to tell them in advance. If the instructor says kamaete, that's the same thing as yoi. If not, they will get confused because they're just so used to yoi. So the yoi position, here it says feet shoulder width apart and facing out diagonally. Fist drop in front and held closely, like that. So that's actually the Soto Dachi stance, or called Shinzentai as well. Then you pull the left leg into the Kiwotsuke position. So the instructor will also say Kiwotsuke, which means attention. This stance is called Mishubidachi. Heels together, toes apart. Heels together, toes apart. Hands drop down to the sides, palm placed on the thighs. This is the bow. You stay there about 1 to 2 seconds or 3 to 5 seconds, depending on the formality of the occasion. And then this is standing back up. And then from here to here, you pull the left leg out, back to the yoi or kamaete position. From here, the instructor would usually say naote. Okay, so I'm going to give you more description on this. So the way we do it in Shitoryu, you stand shoulder width, not too wide, quite narrow, and the fist close in front of you. This is our yoi position. Shotokan will be slightly wider and the fist apart. It still considers shoulder width, fist apart. Shitoryu seems to have a more feminine characteristic as compared to Shotokan. And you see that characteristic in kata as well. So this is Shotokan, Shitoryu. Now comparatively, Kyokushin is a bit more macho. Here, this is their yoi position.
One key point of the hand position of the Shitoryu's yoi is that it is placed directly in front of the groin. Since this posture is not a fighting posture, you are more vulnerable if you were to be attacked. By positioning your arms in front, at most it allows you to potentially react to an attack, and at least it serves as a barrier between the attack and the rest of your body, especially the groin.
So from here to the Kiwotsuke position, you pull the left leg in. And back out to the yoi position, you pull the left leg out. So why the left leg? It's just a matter of convention. So there are two reasons for convention. One is uniformity amongst the entire class or the entire organization. That goes with any military style training. The other reason is, I would say, to simplify communication. It goes with any field of discipline, let's say mathematics, or perhaps if you study engineering. In your engineering calculations, there are ways to write the calculation step by step. You could do it different from the convention, and it still would not be wrong. However, if you don't follow the convention, a fresh eye reading your calculations or mathematics steps may take a while to understand it. The point of convention is for everyone to understand each other very quickly. It's for efficiency in communication. Now, my guess on why the left leg is pulled in and pulled out, I think is, in our Kihon, we always start with the left leg. For example, Hidari Zensuachi Gerangari, it's always the left leg. Or Hidari Shikachi Juransuki, it's always the left leg. So the reason why we usually start with the left leg is because in unarmed fighting, if you're a right-hander, you want to stand on the left leg forward. Basically, you want to keep your dominant hand back. If you're a left-hander, your left hand is dominant, you tend to keep your left hand back. So the dominant hand goes back because that's the power punch. That's where you get full power. It's not a strict rule, but because there are more right-handers in the world, we follow that. So although when it comes to Kihon, karate is quite strict with conventions. However, in Kumite, you do what you feel is more effective for yourself. That's just how it is. This is the Hidari Gamai, or the left posture. In boxing and MMA terms, they call this the orthodox stance. This is the Migi Gamai. In boxing or MMA, they call this the southpaw. So, since most people fight this way, most people are used to an opponent who fight on the orthodox stance. So some people intentionally choose to fight on the southpaw stance even though they're right-handed. Because if you have trained this way your whole life, you're comfortable with an opponent who fight on either stance. Whereas most of your opponent will not feel comfortable facing a southpaw or a Migi Gamai. An example of someone who chooses to fight on the left stance even though they're right-handed is Bruce Lee. In contrast to Kendo, Kendo is quite strict in the etiquette even though it's a combat sport. When it comes to sword fighting, it's the opposite of unarmed. Unarmed fighting, dominant hand back. Sword fighting, dominant hand front, obviously. So fencing, if you're right-handed here, if you're left-handed, this is better for you. Kendo, same thing. So Kendo is much more strict. You will pretty much not be trained as a left-hander, even if you are a left-hander. You will always be trained this side. And this is explained through history. In medieval Europe and Japan, people walk on the left side because most people are right-handers. Hence, most people hold the sword with the right hand. And if they need to withdraw the sword on emergency, they would rather have their opponent or potential opponent on their right. This is efficient. If your standard of walking is this side, then you have to come here. It's not as efficient. So everybody wants to walk on this side, sword on your left, dominant hand closer to the potential opponent. That eventually translates to riding carriage. The reason why we drive on the right and not on the left is if you have an opponent, it's hard for you to fight if you're the rider. But here, you can draw your sword and battle. Eventually that translates to cars. To drive on the right of the car, on the left of the road. So similarly, that translates to Kendo. Everyone fights this side. Next, I want to talk about the bow. So basically, the bow is stand on Mishidachi, hands by the side, and bow. And you stay there about 1 to 2 seconds. Before going on to the time bow, I want to talk about body language. So posture radiates body language. This posture is a submissive posture. This posture is a dominant posture. Similarly, when it comes to Rei, this is more dominant than this.
Although the word Rei can refer to all types of bow, generally it refers to the standing bow, which is also known as Ritsurei. The seated bow is known as Zarei.
So in normal day occasion, non-karate occasion in Japan, this is considered the female bow. This is considered what men would do. They have one more posture with the hand here. I think this is a professional posture. Providing professional services, they will tend to bow this way, men or women. Anyway, in karate, this is not a convention. In karate, everyone does this way. But another thing about dominant and submissive, obviously the lower you go, the more submissive you are. So as in etiquette in Asia, respecting the elders is very important. So similarly in karate, respecting your seniors is also important. So if you're bowing to someone who is more senior to you, you better bow lower than them. The angle that you want to bow to is generally about 30 degrees, but the general rule is that it's low enough to be considered a bow, but not too low that you can't make eye contact if you need to. So in Japanese society, when you do a proper bow, a formal bow, you don't make eye contact. So in karate, pretty much similar, you don't need to make eye contact, but you must be able to if you want to, and that's for defense. You don't want to be unprepared for an attack. Although you're not supposed to bow very low, occasionally you will find seniors in karate as well as in age bow with the feminine bow, even though they're men, and very low. And this is not too rare because it's common to have humble people in karate. So if I would face that situation, I would have to be more submissive, hands here and even low, at least as low as they. Now we'll talk about how long to stay in the bow position. So I mentioned that formally 1 or 2 seconds is good. That's normal formality. In karate championships, in the kata category, because kata is not a combative sport, we place higher emphasis on the etiquette. So they will walk like this, turn this way, and they tend to bow about 3 to 5 seconds. It's extra formal than normal formal occasions. In kumite, it's quite the opposite. It's less formal. You can see people bow like this. Sometimes like this. Although it's not considered proper, it's quite understandable because kumite is a combative game. So everything's fast-paced, so they tend to do everything fast as well, even the bow. So although it's not proper, it's in a way understandable. So long as at least you perform a proper bow at the beginning and at the end of the bow. So before you step in, just make sure you do proper bow. Okay? You can do proper bow again to the referee and to your opponent, or you don't need to. It's up to you. You start. By the end of the match, after the referee has declared the winner, you could bow before going to your opponent to shake hands, but you could immediately go shake hand, hug, whatever you want. Walk out before you step out the tatami. Before one proper bow. One last time. So this kind of bow, this posture is present in pretty much all mainstream karate. Kyokushin karate does a bow like this. It's very different. If you see a bow like this in karate, that's not most of karate, that's in Kyokushin karate and its variations.
The Seiza and Zarei will be in the following video, coming very soon. Please give a like and share. Subscribe on YouTube and follow on Facebook for updates. I am Sensei Zed and this is a Karate Zed video.